Hey again, in this tutorial I want to cover the proper use of the WaveShaper plugin and the principle behind it, as well as take a quick look at using distortion. To start off with, most people associate distortion with things like electric guitar or degrading effects, but in fact distortion is used in many other applications in all types of music. It's all on how you use distortion and how much you use. To start off with, distortion is simply taking an input signal and overdriving it. This causes clipping, which causes the distorted sound. The difference in distortions is how much clipping takes place and how it's processed. The WaveShaper takes an input signal and lays it out on a graph to control the input and output. But the thing to remember is that distortion isn't just for degrading sound. A lot of top producers use distortion on vocal lines, even in pop songs, to fatten the sound. The key is to avoid overdoing it. Adding a little bit of distortion can create a warmer, thicker sound, while overdoing it creates a fuzzy, crunchy kind of sound. This is useful again for vocals or on drums or synths, things that you want to fatten in the mix. So we'll take a look at an example of using the WaveShaper in this capacity. First we'll load a sample. For this example I've just loaded a snare sample and I'll go ahead and play that for you. Okay, and then what we'll do is add the WaveShaper on channel number 1, and that's where we have our snare. Now the WaveShaper, or the process of wave shaping distortion, is a bit technical, and it involves algorithms that map out sample points on a graph, and then they're adjusted according to signal strength. But to put it plainly, the plugin simply takes the input signal and maps it to an output signal. This means that as the input signal is raised, the output signal becomes more distorted. When we lay this out on the WaveShaper's graph, we'll see that the bottom left-hand corner will contain the most distorted and compressed region, and the top right-hand will contain the cleanest. To show this, I'm just going to play this example, and I'm just going to add and adjust points in the top right and bottom left so that you can see what I mean. So we just saw how the WaveShaper is graphed out. Now with that knowledge, we can begin to use the plugin. We can achieve different results by making points and moving them around on the graph from the top to the bottom. For instance, if you wanted to distort a drum hit like we have here and give a little bit of an accent on the head of the sample, we could draw a triangle shape toward the bottom left-hand corner of the graph and then adjust the pre-knob, which will determine the signal strength at that point in time. So as I play this example, I'll move the points to create the triangle shape, and then we'll move around the pre-position to show how this changes the effect. So we saw in that example how this created an emphasis on the head of the sample, and this could be useful instead of using a typical single band compressor to make a drum hit stick out, maybe kind of emulate that type of effect. And also you notice that when I moved the point all the way to the far left hand side, it became very distorted and there wasn't really much of an attack. Instead I just tried to move the point out a little bit towards the center. So just keep an eye on that. Now again, I want to emphasize the importance of using distortion in normal tracks. You need to be very conservative with your usage because the goal is to give a warm sound, not a crunchy one, unless of course that's what you're going for. But distortion can do wonders to give some life to an otherwise dull instrument. An example of usage for this, and I've actually seen this done many times in studios, is to take a vocal and then distort it, bring it right at about that crunchy point, and then layer it underneath a clean version of the same vocal, just enough so that it's barely audible. This gives the singer's voice a warm, thick feel without taking away from the original's vocal. One last example I want to show is just a way that we can use the WaveShaper to kind of bend a sound. To do this, what we'll need to do is put the WaveShaper in bipolar mode so that the middle of the graph becomes 0, and then all we'll do is just draw an inverted triangle to the middle. Now while I play this example, I'll turn the WaveShaper on and off so that you can hear the difference in the sound. I'm also going to go ahead and set this back to default here, put it in bipolar mode, and we'll just bring that point up there. Now I also want you to hear this effect on an instrument, so I went ahead and loaded an instance of the FL Keys plugin, and I'll just draw out some notes, and again I'll turn the effect on and off. So we saw how this created a bending type effect that kept the wave shape together to form a new sound. And as always, remember to experiment and play around with the automation settings to get the most out of this tool. But thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next tutorial.